Good day, friends. My name is S. Venkat. I'm founder director with My CFO, which is India's largest and fastest growing CFO services company. Today, My CFO will be sharing some insights on how to get ERP implementations right. Many of us as entrepreneurs and promoters and CEOs have now scaled up our company to a point where manual systems like Tally may not be adequate for us to run our business operations. And most of us are now thinking about how do we implement an Oracle or a BAN or an SAP, a Microsoft Dynamics or an Accepta or a similar package. And what is somewhat scary is that the success ratio of ERP implementations in India is pretty bad. So my CFO, based on its experience of having worked with more than 200 companies in the last 3 years, thought, let's come up with some basic guidelines in this 2-minute video on how you can get your ERP implementations right. So what are the 3 top things that you need to keep in mind when you embark on an ERP implementation? The first thing we need to keep in mind is that this is not an IT project. It's really a business project. Far too many promoters and entrepreneurs make the mistake of thinking that if they have a CIO or if they have an IT person on board, this person is going to be piloting the ERP implementation in the company. That's an absolutely incorrect premise for us to start off with. What an ERP does is to integrate different business processes of the company. So whether it is procurement, whether it's actual purchasing, whether it's material planning, whether it's costing, whether it's sales, whether it's the production process, whether it's your accounting, whether it's supply chain, all of these things are actually getting integrated in the ERP. Very rarely would you find an individual who heads up the IT department who has got oversight into all these functions. Most of the people on the IT side understand the coding very well, but they don't necessarily understand the business process. So what you need to do is to take this as a business project and get the folks on the business side involved along with your IT person to get the ERP implementation right. The second thing that we need to keep in mind when we embark on ERP projects is to resist the temptation to make too many customizations. A lot of us as entrepreneurs and promoters believe that our businesses are absolutely unique, that we are possibly the only company in the country or possibly even in the world who have got the kind of business peculiarities that are specific to our business. We need to resist this temptation because all the large packages, whether they are SAP, Microsoft or Oracle or BAN, have done thousands and probably lakhs of implementations across the world. What they're now bringing to you is really a bouquet of best practices. They have evolved their software, they've evolved their ERP to a point where it possibly takes into account 99.99% of all business functions and requirements that companies have demanded of them in the past. We need to think and honestly introspect and ask ourselves the question that are our businesses really that different or that peculiar from the businesses elsewhere in the world? What happens in case of a customization and a configuration is that it complicates the process of implementation. It leads to more time. It also means that future upgrades and versions that the ERP vendors come up with are possibly not going to be made available to your organization because you moved away from the original code that the vendor gave you. So the second lesson from past failures in ERP implementations is let us resist the temptation to configure or customize too much. The third lesson in terms of getting the implementations right is that all these projects require senior management support. If you think that you can delegate the job of ERP implementation to someone junior in the organization and at the click of a button the ERP is going to go live, we have got it completely wrong. The ERP implementation requires a very strong backing, very strong sponsorship by the promoter group. The CEO needs to be seen as leading the project from the front. It's not essential that you need to get involved in the micro of the implementation, but you need to provide adequate resources. And most importantly, you should be seen as using the system yourself. ERPs are not about IT implementations. ERPs are about behavioral changes. It's about a cultural change management in your organization. If you don't start it with yourself, it's highly unlikely that your organization is going to follow suit. So to conclude, to sum up, the 3 key things that you need to get right in an ERP implementation. First, treat it as a business project and not as an IT project. Second, resist the temptation to make too many customizations. And third, make sure that you're leading it from the front. That's it from my CFO. Bye-bye.